There we go. All right, we're broadcasting. Everybody should be coming in. Welcome all. We're just going to give it another couple minutes for a couple more people to join. I will do my little intro. Good afternoon and welcome to 2021 Oregon Active Transportation Summit. My name is Erin Haley. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Communications Director with the Street Trust. Before we begin our program, the Street Trust would like to acknowledge the land we are occupying. The Portland metro area rests on traditional village sites of the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Clackamas, bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Molalla, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River. We take this opportunity to thank the original caretakers of this land. Thank you. Welcome to Marketing Focused Case Studies. Your moderator for this session is Susan Pythman, and your presenters are Carrie, Cantrell, John Carter, Anna Gore, and Kathy Fitzpatrick. You can type your questions in the chat or use the raise hand tool, both found at the bottom of your screen. Please use social media hashtag OATS21 to post about the summit on social media. And don't forget to visit our website at thestreettrust.org to learn more about other programs and activities, including SB 395, aka Safe Routes for All, an update to the historic bike bill on its 50th anniversary that the Street Trust is championing in the Oregon legislature this session. To claim AICP credit for attending this session, please log into the OATS Sched platform and find the AICP certificate download link near the top of the page. Now, without further delay, please welcome to your screen our moderator, Susan Pythman.
Okay, I'll unmute myself. Carrie, Erin, I do want to say we're still at 6 participants. So I'm a little nervous that other people haven't entered.
It's just there's no one
here.
Yeah, it's just us, the panelists.
Yeah, it's that you see the people that are joining because we're the only ones allowed to be joined.
So we only
through video.
Okay, so there are other people here.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Just making sure. Oh, virtual conferences. All right. So for those out there, you're in the marketing focused case studies session at the 2021 Oregon Active Transportation Summit. My name is Susan Pythman. I'm the Strategic Investments Manager at the Oregon Department of Transportation, and I'm moderating this session. I'm excited because one of the chapters of my career in active transportation included working on individualized marketing programs. So I'm excited to see new work happening. First, we have Carrie, Cantrell, and John Carter from Portland Community College to talk about the economic health and bike traffic. And then we will have Anna Gore from Alta Planning and Design, and Kathy Fitzpatrick from McKed will present on their Everybody Rides marketing program. Please save your questions for the end, or just type them in the chat, and I'll try to moderate that and get that at the end. Just a note, I have a hard deadline at 2 p.m. and so I will moderate questions up to that point, and then I'm going to bug out. For the people presenting, I have them answer the following questions. Why do you want to see more people walking, biking, and using transit? And what was or is your favorite pandemic hobby? So first up, John Carter. He's the Transportation Demand Manager at Portland Community College, and he answered that question with, I wish to see people approach transit mobility as something to balance. There's no binary in that just because you drive doesn't mean you can't walk, bike, or use the bus. To assign identities to how we get around, saying I'm a driver or I'm a cyclist ends up ignoring that, as with anything in life, the healthiest outcome is one of balance. His favorite pandemic holiday has been co-facilitating the creation of an art gallery consignment shop music space in Southeast Portland that will be available to people as a resource in the post-pandemic world. And let's see, and Carrie, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, because I didn't get your information, and then I'll kick it over to you guys.
Sure. I'm Carrie. I'm a transportation ambassador. And so I work between a couple of the campuses with PCC. I want to see people riding more bikes just because it's a healthy and green alternative to driving or waiting And it just it makes me happy to exercise and be able to pull my dog around on the wagon behind us. We make a pretty cute picture. So I think it's a cuter city when everybody bicycles. My favorite pandemic hobby is gardening. So I'm really happy that the gardening weather is back.
Well, thanks, guys. I will turn off my video and hand it over to you.
Cool. So we can just share our screen, right? Okay, cool. Let me see.
At least I hope so.
Oh yeah, I mean we'll get it. Let's see. Yeah. So I think you can see it now, right? The presentation.
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, just to kind of reintroduce ourselves and say what our jobs are and kind of what we do specifically. I'm John Carter, so I'm the Transportation Demand Manager for Portland Community College. So that means that I oversee and help create programming for getting people to drive less, essentially, to have more of a balance in terms of how they get around. So we would, prior to COVID, like a lot of this work was measuring and monitoring and addressing how people are getting to Portland Community College's various 4 campuses. And so like I'd look at those numbers, see how we're doing, see how we can get out and offer resources and persuade students to walk, bike, or use TriMet. And we'll talk about how like that has shifted in the pandemic. But Carrie.
Right. So as I mentioned before, I'm an active transportation ambassador. So my territory covered 2 of the campuses in the PCC family, Sylvania and Southeast Campus. And right, I'm also the dog mom of Dora, who has been an integral and sometimes unwilling, but always happy after she gets paid. She's been a model and helped spearhead really our kind of movement as we pivoted towards outreach and sorry, can you not hear? Do you see?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Right, so she was just part of the process as we started pivoting towards outreach that was not direct face-to-face tabling, which was what we had been used to on campuses. As we were moving out into the wider community, as the campuses were closed, yeah, we basically just started putting our heads together about how we could partner with the community to continue to create health, safe, active transportation, and also be able to bolster our local economy at the same time.
So our program, it's a so we facilitate the regional travel options grant for PCC. So these funds are dispersed by Metro, our regional government, and then sourced by federal funding. And so, as we said, the goal is really to try to offer as many resources as possible for students to make that transition. In that process, we've learned a lot about like how to market to people, how to talk to people about these things, like how to understand how people's experience colors how they get around. And so the purpose of the program is to guide, educate, and guide the public towards public transit use and biking and walking and carpooling and other modes. So this is just kind of a snapshot of the kinds of things that we would do prior to the pandemic. So we would, do bike maintenance. We'd have like learn to ride classes, so like adults could learn and how to ride. We would talk about our bike rental programs. We'd hand out transit resources from TriMet. We do like coffee for commuters, and one thing that we found with that was interesting is that when you have something to offer someone, like whether it's a coffee or a good conversation or bike maintenance resources, that people will want to listen and they'll want to engage. Whereas with previous experience we had seen when we were just like handing out things and kind of catching people when they were like in between classes, like the conversations were not as substantial and connecting. And so what I think is interesting about this work that we do is that it's as much about talking about transit options as it is with connecting with people and understanding their experience and listening to them and just figuring out, okay, like, well, how do you get around and what can we do to help? So Carrie?
Right. And that was nice to be able to connect to the campus community while we were there. And I appreciated how we had that more invitational approach, because we were offering not only like practical solutions for transportation, but also economic solutions that would make it easier and more accessible that maybe our student body wasn't aware of. So part of our job description was creating access to funding to bicycles and kind of almost educationally learning how to use the transit system as part of. Oh, please hold, Judge Sheds.
Oh, wait.
Should we stop?
Yeah, I just got a text from a friend saying that the link took them to another session.
Oh.
So I don't know if that's
Oh, dear.
everyone.
Maybe
Thank
this
you.
is a practice session.
Yeah, I guess this was the practice session. That's okay. I mean, we can run through it. We can run
Yeah.
through things again or I don't know, what do you want us to do?
We can keep talking to you guys.
Aaron?
I honestly have no idea about the technical side of things. I know we've had a couple of issues having dual sessions going out at the same time, and that we were spending this morning trying to work that out. So it looks like we're still trying to work that out. Judge just texted me and said, I'm trying to create a new link and he'll send it to everyone.
Okay, yeah, I just, I think Emma Newman made it in. She just, because I sent her the link.
Oh, she did.
and
So we know somebody's in.
After I sent them the link that was in our calendar invite.
Oh, so maybe there was, okay. Okay, so it looks like maybe there was the wrong link.
This is Emma. The link that is currently posted on the sessions page leads to the pedestrian crossing session. And then I had
Okay.
asked the question in that chat if I was in the wrong place, and they sent me that same link, which just brought me right back to the same room.
Tell me again what session it took you to?
The pedestrian crossing prioritization session.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell Judge that. So we just need to fix that. And okay.
Oh, and you're in as Susan Pikeman, aren't you, Emma?
I'm your double. I
was
didn't
like,
know
wait.
I was. Okay, thanks. It's an honor. It's a good name to be doppelgangering as.
Thanks, Emma.
Okay, looks like somebody else, Daniel Amoni, is in. Thank you, Daniel. All right, so they're coming in. Looks like things are working. Thank you all so much for your patience.
So should we just start over then?
Yeah, we can start over.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like
That's
if we
that's
can
fine.
maybe
We'll
wait.
streamline
Should
it
we
too.
start at
We won't have
20 after? Give it 5 minutes for more people to come in.
Sure, that
Sure.
sounds
What do you
good.
think?
Yeah.
Probably give it like 2 if everybody's coming
minutes?
over.
Okay,
Yeah, so
yeah,
that way we
okay.
don't lose too much.
Sounds good. Okay, let's do 2. And yeah, I'm just gonna tell Judge that. Thanks again, everybody, for your patience. I'm gonna give it.
Erin, can you see the number of participants? Okay, so we're up to 8.
I can. So we're up to 8,
Okay.
but there should be, I think like 40 something. So. And it seems like Judge can't hear us or see the chat. Okay, he says make it 3 minutes. Anybody know any good alt transportation jokes? No? All right. Thanks again for your patience. We are working on a technical difficulty, which we should get fixed in like 2 minutes. Let's see.
Emma
I'll
just
just go.
added a joke.
Oh,
My partner
awesome.
shared this one last night. Why can't ships cross the Red Sea?
Ooh. Do tell.
Anybody?
Because it's red.
Got
To which
booted
I
off.
responded, well, if they went in a roundabout fashion, maybe it would work.
The maximum amount of attendees.
That'd be funny.
I love it.
So we
All right.
accidentally got booted out. Are we muted?
I don't think so.
We accidentally got booted out. I just want to make sure that there's not a maximum number of attendees in the room.
No, I think it's the same issue of like there's 2 sessions happening at once, and
Okay.
Zoom is finicky about how many hosts you can have.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're just trying to work out that kink.
Okay. Yeah, just let us know when to start.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just read my intro again. We're up to 7, and now it looks like we lost Judge. Thank you for your patience. Hang on one sec.
Oh, it's okay.
It's a
All right, so I just Googled dad jokes. What do sprinters eat before a race?
Ooh, sprinters?
Nothing. Yeah, sprinters. Nothing. They fast. Let's see. Okay, none of these are really that good. Oh, here's one. I'm a parent. I spent a lot of time and money and effort childproofing my house, but this kid still got in. Oh, here's one that's appropriate. Why couldn't the bicycle stand up by itself?
It's too tired.
Oh,
Good
that's a
job,
good
Emma.
one.
That was a good one.
I like that.
Hey, I just Googled this and found one. What's a dog's favorite mode of transportation? Ready? A wagon. That's a good
That's
one.
cute.
All right, looks like we're up to 10 participants. It's starting to work, people. Thank you so much for your patience. At 1:20 on the dot, I just think we should start over and let people kind of trickle in. If that sounds good to you, Susan.
Sounds good. I'm gonna cut my intro though, just to save time.
Yeah, and I will also cut mine.
Yeah, we can streamline things as well on our end.
Yeah, if we've learned anything this year, I hope that it's flexibility.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Well, if you're just tuning in, it looks like we've got people coming in. Good afternoon. Welcome to OATS21, Oregon Active Transportation Summit. I'm Erin Haley. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the communications director with the Street Trust. You are here for marketing-focused case studies. Your moderator for this session is Susan Pythman, and your presenters are Carrie, Cantrell, John Carter, Anna Gore, and Kathy Fitzpatrick. You can type your questions in the chat, or technical difficulties as it may be, in the chat, or raise your hand with the tool both found at the bottom of your screen. Please use the social media hashtag OATS21 to post about the summit on social media. And don't forget to visit our website at thestreettrust.org to learn more about other programs and activities. Now, without further delay, please welcome to your screen, Susan Pythman.
Hi folks, I'm the moderator. My name is Susan Pythman. I work at the Oregon Department of Transportation as their Strategic Investments Manager. And in the Public Transportation Division. You are in the marketing focused case studies session. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I had some intros prepared for folks, but to save time, I will just let them introduce themselves and we will try to start over and try this again. So I'm going to turn off my video and hand it over to John and Carrie.
All right, cool. Hi. We're going to share our screen and then introduce ourselves. Can everybody see that screen? I hope so.
Yes.
Okay. My name is John Carter. I am the Transportation Demand Manager for Portland Community College. So I am focused on monitoring and understanding how people on our campuses get around, what their form of transportation is. There's many ways that we can tell what's going on, and one of them is to talk to the public. So that is something that we are going to focus on today. We're going to talk about what we did prior to COVID, what we've been doing since COVID, and what our kind of philosophy is and marketing approach when it comes to talking about regional travel options. So, Carrie?
Hi, thank you. I'm Carrie Cantrell. I'm a transportation ambassador with Portland Community College as a transportation. And you can see in the picture there is my dog, Dora. And pre-COVID, we were involved with the Southeast campuses in Sylvania and Southwest Portland. And we just talked to students on both campuses that would be coming from pretty much all over Portland and the surrounding areas about their transportation needs, their struggles, and how we could help them out. And now Dora is becoming Instagram famous on our new Instagram platform.
So the Regional Travel Options is a grant that is funded by Metro through federal funding sources, and they help facilitate our use of it. The purpose of the program is basically to educate the public and guide them towards options other than driving alone, whether it be TriMet, biking, walking, carpooling. And it's essentially kind of marketing transportation to the community. And there's many reasons why we want to do this. One, we want to support the region as a whole and like reduce traffic congestion and greenhouse gases. We have goals as an institution in terms of reducing our greenhouse gases. And also, we want to make sure that we're accommodating people, meaning them where they're at, and that, people get around for different reasons and people have different situations, and understanding them is key. And I think one of the things that, we try to do as part of this grant is that oftentimes when it comes to talking about transportation, there's a lot of focus that's put on like quantitative data, and we're really thinking a lot about like qualitative data and the direct conversations that we're having with people. So to that end, prior to COVID-19, the programming surrounded mostly the 4 main campuses, and you can see here what we were kind of the sort of things that we were getting up to, like giving coffee to people that were coming in to talk about how they got around. We would do bike maintenance classes. We would do, adults learn to ride. We'd promote our campus shuttle services. We had a comprehensive campus shuttle system that connected the 4 campuses and some of the satellites together. And then, just like talk to people, give them resources, like sit down and have like transportation consultations and things like that. But then now post-COVID.
Right. So as John mentioned, part of our work as ambassadors on campuses was to approach potential new riders or people who are already riding with resources that would make their bike experience or their alternative transportation experience more invitational, less out of a need-based, whether you're looking at it from an ecological, like reducing carbon footprint standpoint, or you're looking at it as like a dietary fitness standpoint. we were moving away from like sort of a shame-based conversation, which we saw as kind of a shame-based conversation, wherein like, you know, if you ride your bike less, you'll do something good for the environment. You know, you ride your bike more, or sorry, if you ride your bike more, you'll do something good for the environment. If you ride your bike more, you'll achieve this health goal. But what we were really actually trying to do alternatively was to make it more attractive. So that ergo, like the friendly conversations, and then also facilitating resources, like discounts or safety things. And as COVID closed all of our campuses, we still had these resources and these conversations. But rather than taking them directly to our students, who represented such a wide body of Portland, and like from all the way out to Clackamas, and then all the way down to Lake Oswego and Tualatin, people were coming in. So we're still keeping this conversation in a place there that was going to be sort of, how would you describe this, en route to their already, like they're all,
Yeah,
they're
well, it's
already
like
that.
our while, you know, we cover such a wide berth of the metro region, ultimately the kinds of conversations that we're having were centric around student, faculty, and staff. When, you know, as a community college, we're an institution that really in a lot of ways has a much broader reach beyond our walls, and that this was a good opportunity to kind of, you know, try this idea out with approval of Metro, to be like, we want to like support small businesses
Right.
and connect with people outside, but from the context of being at PCC.
And so what we did is we took our sort of, if you have it, like original curriculums, and then adapted them to this sort of street mode. And we leaned heavily on locations which were already identified by the Portland Street Trust and Portland Transportation Department with the business friendly streets. And we approached businesses that would be either already seeing a large amount of sidewalk traffic or would like to see more sidewalk traffic. And one of, you know, certain locations where there are lots of bike access, but not a lot of bike traffic, we would go there and try and make it more bike friendly in that specific area. Not only to increase ridership, but again, like John said, to support the small business traffic right there at that location. And we did that through free bike maintenance, tabling outside, again, with like the mapping resources, the safety resources like helmets and reflectors. And then as, you know, the spring and summer of COVID turned into the fall, winter of COVID, we started doing kind of more interactive, but still distance activities. Like we would do a treasure hunt with goodie bags by Instagram and leave clues. And that's where Dora would comment, you know, guess where Dora is at in this picture. And we would also discuss transit as it related to COVID safety. So we would be adhering to the Portland transportation recommendations for ventilation, wearing masks, sanitations, and we would pass out these supplies as well, as far as face masks and sanitation equipment.
Yeah, and you know, we have some photos here of the kinds of work that we were doing, and it was great to be able to, in this kind of like, you know, weird time that we're in, like be able to interact with the public and help people out in safe ways. And I think that, you know, some of the conversations that we have had have ended up being more interesting in that sense, and that like we're getting like not just a perspective of how people get around to get to school, but how they get around the metro region as a whole. So I think like, being that this is about marketing, I think that, you know, it's always good to have like a philosophy when marketing, and like, you know, think like, why do I do what I do, and why am I like pushing this? So I think that, you know, to reiterate, we are about resources first and marketing second, and that we are putting ourselves out there and being like, we're not telling you that you have to bike, but we do have these resources available, and we can help you navigate if it's something that you want to do. If you have a bike that you haven't like used in a while and need work on it, or like you got a flat while you were riding, and like these are things that you're unfamiliar with knowing how to fix, like we got you covered. Like come during like all these days during the week where, you know, we offer our services. And it's interesting because, you know, you develop like these relationships incrementally over time. Some people would just pass by and be like, oh yeah, like I haven't ridden my bike in a long time. Like, this is cool that you're doing this. And then like the following week they bring their bike. And it's like you're influencing people by, you know, not necessarily telling them what to do, but they see, and like it triggers something in their minds and they're like, oh, I haven't done this in a while. Like, you're offering this, that's cool. Like, I got this bike. And it just like kind of plants the seed in their minds, which I think is more important. And then we promote like this idea of balance, and how like there's so many like identities can get attached to like transportation and how people get around. And I think that ends up being kind of toxic, in that it makes it so somebody would identify themselves as a driver or a cyclist. And like, I ride my bike as my primary mode of transportation, but I do all things. I take the bus, I walk, I drive. And like, I began to think about it this way when I had multiple people say to me, oh, we didn't know you had a car because you're like a cyclist, right? You bike everywhere. And I'm like, well, no, I mean, there's certain things that I need the car for. And like, I appreciate that I have it when I need it. And I began to realize that a lot of the times people, it's like kind of all or nothing. Like, you know, if you got a bike, then like, why, if you bike everywhere, why would you drive? If you drive everywhere, why would you bike? And in actuality, it's like a balance of things, where I know for me, like there's times where it's just a matter of convenience and practicality where I need to use the car. And I kind of realize that when I ride a bike again, I'm like, oh, like this is taking me more time, but like I feel so much better. And like, I don't necessarily even think about that while I'm driving, but when I'm biking, I do. But then when I'm driving, I also see like, what is the perspective of other cyclists and bikers and people who are riding bikes from a driver's point of view. And I can like use that and empathize with people then who drive. And
I think that point was especially proved by what you mentioned, that the interactions with the neighborhoods.
Right.
Because people who wouldn't normally be biking would be walking by on their way to get a cup of coffee, or would be walking by with their dog, and they'd say, you know what, I haven't ridden in a while.
Right.
And in that way, like, I think we were able to, you know, take the community scope inwards a little bit. And then, which, you know, being on the sidewalk, being on bikes allows you to see each other so much more.
Yeah. I think
people forget about that vision scope.
Yeah. It's like creating a judgment-free environment where people can feel comfortable to have an actual dialogue about something.
Right.
And in this case, it's about, you know, how do you get around? And it's interesting to hear all the reasons why people drive. And it helps you, rather than be like, this is something that you have to do, you have to bike, you have to take the bus, like you got to get out of your car. To understand and kind of meet people where they're at, I think is the most effective tool of all. And that's really what we figured out. So,
and it's just been making that conversation easier to have when we're partnered with small businesses that serve something really delicious, like the coffee at Cafe Favela or Zamora. Or, you know, if we're teaming up with WeBike, or we even went to a protest or two over the summer where we were able to provide resources for the community.
And as I said before, like things build incrementally over time. And it's like there were many times where we would just be like kind of out in the rain doing this and be like, oh, should we not do it the next week? And be like, no, like it's good to be out here every week. Like, because then you create this kind of consistency in people's minds. They're like, oh, well, I can rely on this. Hell, I mean, we weren't there today because of this presentation, and you know, the guy runs the spot, so there were 5 people waiting to get their bike serviced, and it's like, you know, I mean, that's awesome. Like, and it's like, I mean, it's not awesome that we weren't there, but it's like awesome that people are like, oh, I can know and rely on this. And unfortunately, we kind of went against that philosophy this week, but we're glad to be here. So yeah, I think that's what we have to say, and we want to kind of open up the floor for questions.
Actually, if you wouldn't mind if we could hold those questions to the end, just so
Oh,
we
sure,
make sure
that's
that Kathy and Anna have time to run through their presentation, because we started so late, So thank you so much for that. Hopefully we'll have some questions at the end, or if you guys can put some questions in the chat and we can make sure we get those to folks. So Anna and Kathy, if you guys want to take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Just one second. Okay, is everybody seeing our slides? Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you. Great. So hello, everybody. My name is Anna Gore from Alta Planning and Design, and today I'm presenting with Kathy Fitzpatrick from the Mid-Columbia Economic Development District, also called MCED. And we will be presenting on the Everybody Rides campaign. This campaign was led by MCED and launched actually in spring 2019, so pre-pandemic, but it had concentrated efforts over that summer and really ongoing strategies that continued through the pandemic into today. So this campaign was made possible by grant funding and support by ODOT, and support at key points by two consultants, also Planning and Design and Immense Imagery. And in this session, we'll give you an overview of the project. I'm going to talk about some of the graphic design and accessibility considerations that we considered and used. Then we'll dig into the media and marketing work that was involved with this and wrap it up with some resources for you and some takeaways for you to consider. So we're hoping that you'll come away from this session with some ideas on how community partners can be engaged to help with a campaign if you're developing one, and an understanding of how community involvement can expand the reach of a campaign, and some ways that materials can be designed to focus on limited English proficiency audiences, and how in turn that actually helps to reach an even broader audience with a campaign. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Kathy to talk about Everybody Rides.
Thanks, Anna. I'm Kathy Fitzpatrick. I am the mobility manager for the Mid-Columbia Economic Development District. We serve a bi-state area, both Oregon and Washington. Washington across the Columbia River from Oregon. And so it's our region is called the Columbia River Gorge, and we are a bi-state, 5-county region. Next slide. As mobility manager of this bi-state region, I help to coordinate public transportation. So there are 5 transportation providers from each of the 5 counties, and they serve a really rural region. 2 of the counties are highly rural or frontier, and they also connect to the Portland and Vancouver urban areas. Within our rural region, public transportation is essential. Most people have to travel to a different county to get to the grocery store, or to get to the community college, or to go to school, or to get to recreational activities, to get to the doctor. So it's a really essential service. Go ahead and next slide. But until a couple of years ago, our public transportation providers mostly provided dial-a-ride services. It's only been about 2 or 3 years that we have been able to provide a really extensive network of fixed route services, and that is really exciting. But in a rural area, that's something very new, and the buses were rolling, and people had no idea that the buses were rolling and that the buses were for them. So we knew we needed to do a public awareness campaign, but also we knew we needed to educate people, like how do you get on the bus? How do you use the bus? So that message was, the main message was, yes, the bus exists. It's there for you. Next slide. So that was a really simple message, but we also wanted to make sure that people had access to the tools. Like John was saying, it's really important that you're not just marketing to people, push, 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 here, you need to do this, you should do that, but that you're giving them valuable tools. And so we had we were linking with our marketing campaign, we were linking people to those tools. So we had a mobile fare app, we had a brand new website and some new pass programs. Next slide. So the website was really the core of those services. It really, we put together an amazing website. It was modeled after the NWADA website, the Northwest Oregon Transit Alliance website, which was built with tons of money. And so we just copied it. And so we didn't have to spend very much money at all, but it has amazing tools like GTFS to HTML, Mapbox, Remix. I mean, it's very writer facing. It's got all the cool slick tools. So itineraries for visits and locals, and it's where all of our marketing pointed to. So it was that thing of value that we were bringing people's attention to. Next slide. And so we wanted to use stories to really capture people's attention, and we wanted each county to tell their own story. We wanted them to see their own local celebrities within these stories, celebrate their identities, and have them show themselves off to other people. So they were they were part of our reach. We wanted to let them tell their own story. Now, these are very, very different counties. So we got in Skamania County, you got Sasquatch. In Sherman County, you got horses. In Skamania County, there's waterfalls and mossy forests. In Sherman County, there's like wheat fields. Hood River County, as you probably all know, very touristy, with also a really large Latino population. So all of these stories were going to be really unique. Next slide. And so having them tell their own unique story, but really focusing on one message. So next, we needed that recognizable brand and logo to be able to deliver that message. And so we went to the experts to help us with that, Alta Planning. So Anna, take it away.
Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, so Alta had the privilege to support this campaign, Everybody Rides campaign, with graphic design assistance. And we also did have regular consultations with Kathy throughout the project. So we developed the campaign's visual identity, a print piece, a rack card that promoted it, designed the first system map for the Gorge TransLink service providers, and then in the end ended up creating a toolkit to help other organizations create similar campaigns throughout the state. So in this portion of the presentation, I just want to share some of the design elements from the campaign and talk about some of the considerations we made for our audience. In terms of our design considerations, we had, as Kathy mentioned, we knew our audience included a 5-county region. We discussed the symbols or icons that could reflect the entire region, knowing that a lot were unique to them. But the county's landscapes, range from waterfalls to Douglas firs and wheat fields. But we did know that the Columbia River Gorge itself, with the Columbia River and Mount Hood and Mount Adams on each side, is something that was shared among all 5 counties. And we also recognized the large Spanish-speaking community in this region, many with limited English proficiency. And again, we knew that by designing for limited English proficiency and low literacy individuals, the materials would be the most accessible, like to the widest possible audience. So we worked with community partners to get feedback that really grounded us in that core message of this bus is for you, a simple message for them to take home. We, to reduce preconceived notions about transit, we worked to reflect the experience of riding the bus through the gorge, considering that the 5-county region uses short scale buses for their transit system. We also understood that the materials had to have a life beyond just the launch of the campaign. So they were going to be used by Gorge TransLink throughout beyond that, and are being used today. So this is a logo we developed. We decided on a badge style logo using some illustrative elements with clouds and mountains in the design. This works well for print applications, but is also good for websites and apps. Both sides of the river are visible, as I mentioned, so Washington and Oregon are both represented. The wide open road with the big clouds and a touch of yellow to bring lightness is all part of the design. The short scale bus is reflected. And importantly, there's equal weight between the English and the Spanish words in this logo. The other logo version is just the extended version of the logo. So that's really best when there's limited vertical space or where there's time or space constraints for folks. And that's also suitable for web or print. So these logos continue to be used by MCED and the TransLink Alliance through today. The other material, this is the rec card we created, and as you can see, there's English and Spanish was produced. And the goal of this was really just to tease out those key pieces of information. So less is more when it comes to this, and directing to the website for more detail. And just to break it down a little bit, since this is about our design of this, you know, some of the things that we did was put the logo in the upper left corner in an area that didn't have a lot of text or graphic near it, just to give it breathing room and make it stand out. Using hierarchy in the design, so the biggest item is the most important. In this case, our message, "This bus is for you." We thought about fonts. So there's a display font for the main heading, and then a sans serif font for all of the other information. And just the contrast as well, making sure there's enough contrast between the white on the text and the photo below. Going down the rec card on the front still, some things I'll just point out here to consider is the left aligned text is easiest to read in Western languages because we read left to right. So when text is flush left, readers can find their starting place more easily. The right edge of the type should be ragged or uneven, and that's as opposed to justified, which I know can sometimes look cleaner, but it's actually harder to read. And then supplementing the text with icons. That's important to do when possible. And in this case, we knew that it was next to each payment method. We knew there were 3 different types of payment, and we wanted folks to easily be able to identify that. So we came up with an icon for each. And of course, having the website big and bold. So on the back side of the rec card is just a map of the service area, again, trying to represent a lot in as little as possible to make it easy to digest. And this is the first of its kind that showed all 5 service providers. We did translate this into Spanish as well. Just a few things to point out: that the key stops are very clearly labeled. The 7 counties are provided just for context, and each transit service actually has its own color. The dial-a-ride services we did represent with like a dotted line. So although dial-a-ride is available in all counties, Sherman County only has dial-a-ride service right now. And so that's how we chose to reflect that in the design. And let's see, just to bring us to a close, if I had one tip about designing for limited English proficiency audiences, that's just to know your audience, know what reaches them. Think about copywriting. As simple and as direct as possible can help with comprehension, clear and concise sentences, and using active voice when possible. So there's an example of active voice on the right. And then consider translation or transcreation. So translation focuses on replacing words, where transcreation focuses on conveying the same meaning in a new language. And in our case, Todos Arriba is not a literal translation of Everybody Rides, but Kathy worked closely with community partners to determine that was the right phrase to use in this campaign. And then supplementing the text with graphics is the other takeaway that I mentioned. So with that, let me turn it back over to Kathy to tell you about the fun stuff in the campaign. I think you are muted still, Kathy.
Thanks. Next slide. So the marketing platforms. So we knew we wanted to tell these stories, and so we wanted to put the stories together. But then how we're going to get them out there? Well, what we decided to do was use social media, because it's really just the cheapest, most direct way to get those stories out to the public, and to get them and to be able to target them. So target them directly to specific counties or specific areas within those counties. You're able to do that with social media. So we opened up a bunch of platforms. We got a Facebook account, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We use TikTok. We use Google Ads, super cheap, super direct to get right out to people. We use radio. So we are fortunate in our area to have both a community and commercial Spanish language radio. So we did interviews and stories. And then we did do some feature stories in newspaper. About a third of the time that people spend online, they are watching videos. So we knew that we really wanted to focus on the videos. And although Facebook is decreasing significantly, the use of Facebook amongst younger people in areas like Sherman County, all the older people almost all the residents are on Facebook. So it was a great tool for us to use. Next slide. So those community stories, you know, the heart of the campaign really was the videos. And for Wasco County in specific, the Gorge Roller Derby, it was just a natural choice. I mean, the Gorge Roller Derby they come from all over the Columbia River Gorge, but they host all their bouts in the Dalles at the community college. So we knew that we could draw in the community college, use the community college, all of the community college platforms, because they were going to want to push out the video. And then, of course, we were able to use all of the Gorge Roller Derby platforms, so their Facebook and all their social media platforms. And we met with a team and we said, what story do you want to tell? And they really wanted to highlight the inspiring and inclusive nature of roller derby, which seeks to empower marginalized people. So that was the story we told, and we put that story on the bus. Anna, could you show that video?
I want to be called Assassin. And I want to be called Brit Tally. Thanks, Anna. All right. So we did 5 videos in total. The one that we did for Hood River County, because of their large Latino presence and community, was super fun. We teamed up with Radio Tierra, and we did an hour-long Facebook live Facebook broadcast, and that was a lot of fun. We had all sorts of people on the bus that our DJ and president of Radio Tierra was interviewing. So we had the community college president, whose first language is Spanish. We interviewed the Hood River mayor, who speaks Spanish. And then we went around to all of the local Latino businesses and interviewed the business owners, which was super fun. And of course, the star of the show was the mariachi band. So each video was really different. Next slide. Of course, Sherman County, we had horses in it, of course. So we featured a real multi-generational working farm family who raised Arabian horses. So they were in it. We had somebody on a tractor, an enormous tractor, the biggest tractor I've ever seen in my life. And we had elders from the senior center, and you know, people really could really relate to this video, and they loved it. So this is a county of 1,800 residents, and this video at the time that I took this, this was last year. At the time that I took this count, there were already 10,000 views and 1,996 engagements. So obviously, you know, and we had targeted the that we were just playing the video in Sherman County. But obviously people were sharing it with friends and family and everyone else. Next slide. So this Skamania County video, Of course, we had to have Sasquatch in the video, and we kind of dug a little bit, and we saw what stories Skamania County was already telling. And a lot of the stories were about the sheriff, and they had done some really fun musical videos. So we captured that. We had the sheriff in there and the high school cheerleaders, and we got the school mascot, who's a bulldog, on the bus. Super fun. And also we didn't just push out stories, but we also asked all of the residents to give us their own stories and their own stories of being on the bus. So we got all sorts of different stories. We got people taking selfies with bus drivers and people, heading out to physical therapy on the bus, and how grateful they were for that service. So that was a lot of fun. We did offer prizes. Some really great local prizes for people who offered their stories to us. Next slide. And then we did a focus on the drivers. So we told the driver, we did driver stories. Next slide. That people really loved. We did rider stories that people really loved. And we got those stories just by riding the bus, right? I was just riding the bus, and this guy got on with his bike and had made it all the way to Cascade Locks and was finally getting on the bus to Hood River, and he was so excited about that. So we also did display ads that were also popular and gave somebody something of value, like, hey, I could get on the bus and in the Dalles and I could make it to Hood River like in 20 minutes. Wow. So next slide. We did hyper local target marketing, like I was talking about, and that's the one beauty of social media. And then next slide. You're also able to, with social media, to really see your campaign impact. So our total views of the videos were 103,345 at the time that I took this snapshot. The display ads did really well with Spanish language channels. So the display ads that we put on Google Ads did really well locally. 51% of the clicks were on the Spanish language channel. So that was really cool. And I'll let Anna wrap it up.
Yeah, and in the interest of time, I'm just going to say that we have information online. So I'll chat this link too. But there you can find the campaign toolkit and a accessibility and print guide that we created on the Get There website. So thanks, and I'll turn it over to Susan.
Thanks to the presenters for being so flexible today and running through their presentation so quickly. We have just a couple of minutes, and I don't know, Erin, if people can stay after the 2 p.m. point for a little bit more chat. But I do know Marnie had a question for John and Carrie. I'll just go ahead and read that. What are some of the things you did during COVID that you want to carry forward into your more on-campus work, and what are you thinking of continuing in your community? Hang on, I think I just butchered Marnie's question.
No. I think it was very clear. I think that we want to take a hybrid approach and then an integrative approach where we're doing what we're doing now with the local businesses, but then also do stuff on campus, and maybe have the two kind of intersect more, where we can have like opportunities for kind of like cross-pollination between the two.
What I really realized was that so much of the PCC community is also Portland community. We offer small business classes and organizational assistance through PCC. And so one of the pivots we made was to sort of go towards enrollment. And I'd like us to see more of the same thing that we're doing, but with a targeted outreach to PCC student-run businesses. But that's just me.
That is great, guys. Thank you so much. I believe Emma also had a question. Emma, if you just want to unmute yourself. And then I have to apologize. I actually have to run to a 2 p.m. So if one of the panelists wouldn't mind just moderating some of the questions, I'd be greatly appreciative. So Emma, your question?
Yes, I'm trying to remember what it was since it was a little while a while ago.
Oh, I see it over here.
Yeah, okay, here we go. So I'm always a little curious in trying to think of how best to locate events. In our area, we could choose, the most popular bike path segment, and we often do, between Eugene and Springfield, because a lot of people will have to ride that to get around our metro area. However, that is doing that at like a 4 to 6 p.m. event that will get, City Hall employees going home is not exactly
right.
Reaching the individuals who are working the manufacturing jobs in more commercial kind of outlying areas or up by the mall. So how to reach different audiences while recognizing you don't want to send staff or volunteers out to a really boring location where they only have chances to interact with like 10 to 15 people over a 2-hour period, but also want to be equitable in our approach.
Well, we actually had an instance where we saw, so we last summer we were setting up shop on the Ankeny Greenway by like Gorge's Brewing in that area on like 28th that they made into the Rainbow Road, because we were like, well, that's a great spot because there's lots of people that are biking by there, but in actuality it's like kind of what you're saying. It's like people that are rushing from one place to the other. They're not like, they're just biking and they're not necessarily lingering, and they're not going to stop necessarily to chat. I think what Carrie's done is really sourced a lot of businesses that have like kind of community that lingers around, and lingering as much as you can in COVID. But like, for example, like Favela Cafe, you have people that are like, oh, well, I'm going to bring my bike with me because they're going to work on it while I like drink some coffee and like eat this thing.
And I would say also, like, beyond just choosing a place where somebody would want to linger, even though that is like important to it, to decide what the best locations were. Like, number one, we were addressing a need. So it was our business to business communications and relations that basically opened up that conversation. So we kind of went where we were wanted. And we did, yes, approach coffee shops to say like, oh, would you like this to be in your backyard? Would you like this to be in your front yard? But it was ultimately up to them if they wanted us to populate that area, and whether or not they were on board with the mission. And I'd say also, once that happened, that business to business model then blossomed into sort of like a block mentality, wherein like their communications with, the barbershop next door, for example, would be where we got a lot of our customers or clients, or however you want to describe volunteer, how we got a lot of our bike friends from. Ultimately was not just the people in front of the businesses we had originally made contact with, but adjacent to. So if you're looking to choose a place for an event, I'd go with what John said, and find a place where people would want to be lingering anyway. Maybe it's like and we chose morning times for the cafe, because we're like, people are on their way to the cafe in the morning. So we would kind of just take a stab at it. And then, as we said in our presentation, maintaining the pattern of just being there week after week after week, creating regularity, would create even more of an invitational atmosphere for talking about bikes and being around bike culture. So it's like, yeah, unless you've got like an actual invitation from someone where it's like, oh man, I wish there was like this exactly here, then it's really just about developing the spot. Does that make sense?
I think particularly coming out of COVID, the business-oriented locations is an interesting way that we could pivot from like the regional bike path to how can we support local business,
right,
and engage with individuals who maybe aren't biking right now but might be interested. It'd be nice to do it in close proximity to a bike shop, but our 2 main bike shops just closed during COVID. So I'm thinking, how can we support our one remaining small bike shop? And there is a shopping center across the way, which I wouldn't typically think of because it's not a very bike accessible spot. But if our target audience is new riders, not existing riders, then that's a nice spin on it. So thanks.
Right.
A lot of, and I'd say a lot of the locations where we decided to go were also walking neighborhoods. And a lot of the people who came to us, like with repair and maintenance requests or just diagnostics, really, you know, were families. And they were just like, yeah, I guess we're going to be riding our bikes a lot more this, you know, this summer, like chilling out with the fam. And, you know, for obvious things that we were not going to be capable of just with our skill set or the tools that we had, we made a relationship with like the next closest bike shop to us, just a couple blocks down the road. And we would throw them the business all the time because we're not going to try and overreach ourselves and ultimately like maybe ruin someone's bike experience. But like, that's just another way that we were trying to create connections.
Well, and I think that, you know, like right now we're focused on like Portland for our efforts for this. And like, you know, that is definitely easier than some other parts of the metro region. And, you know, I look forward to when, you know, how do we adapt for, say, like, you know, Beaverton, which is like, you know, built, you know, suburbia built for automobiles, like, you know, has big box stores and parking lagoons. And it's like, how do you do this kind of work there? And I think that goes back to what we were saying of how it's really just trying to like kind of meet people where they're at and like figure out, like, just like listen to them and see why they get around how they do, and just like have a conversation and kind of build up those relationships. And there's probably in those regions going to be less people that say like, oh yeah, like I want you to fix my bike because I am going to be riding this weekend. It's really more just about creating that connection. So you can kind of just like say, hey, this is what I do. And, you know, let's talk about what you do. So.
That's great. Thank you so much, John and Carrie. We are a little bit over time, so
That's okay.
if anybody has any closing remarks they want to say before we sign off, go ahead. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you to Susan, Carrie, John, Anna, and Kathy. Thank you to our sponsors listed on the SCED conference website. And thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of the summit. If you guys have any links or anything you want people to access, just drop them in the chat. And thanks for being part of OATS.
Thank you.
Thank you.